Bangladesh floods, a human and environmental crisis. Introduction. Bangladesh has experienced devastating floods that have impacted nearly 6 million people since late August. These floods, fueled by relentless monsoon rains and exacerbated by climate change, have wreaked havoc across vast regions of the country. The floods are described as the worst climate-related disaster in Bangladesh's recent memory, leaving millions displaced, infrastructure destroyed, and livelihoods ruined. This comprehensive research delves into the causes of these floods, their impact on human lives and the environment, and the growing influence of climate change on the region's vulnerability to such disasters. Causes of the floods. The 2024 floods in Bangladesh have been primarily caused by two major factors: natural monsoon patterns and the worsening effects of climate change. Monsoon rains. The annual monsoon season, which typically lasts from June to October, brings heavy rainfall to Bangladesh. The country, crisscrossed by hundreds of rivers, including major ones like the Ganges and Brahmaputra, is naturally prone to flooding. However, in 2024, the monsoon rains were significantly heavier than usual, resulting in flash floods in low-lying areas, especially in the northern and northeastern parts of the country. Climate change. Climate change has intensified the severity and frequency of these floods. Global warming has increased the capacity of the atmosphere to hold moisture, leading to more intense rainfall events. Additionally, melting glaciers in the Himalayas contribute to the swelling of rivers flowing through Bangladesh. Rising sea levels further exacerbate the situation by making coastal areas more vulnerable to flooding. This combination of factors has made the 2024 floods particularly severe, leading to one of the worst natural disasters the country has faced in decades. Human impact. The floods have affected almost every aspect of life in the flooded regions, displacing millions and causing widespread destruction, displacement and loss of homes. The floods have forced over 1.5 million people from their homes, as entire villages have been submerged underwater. Many of these people now live in temporary shelters, while some have sought refuge in schools and government buildings that have been converted into relief camps. This displacement has led to a humanitarian crisis, as the infrastructure in these areas is inadequate to support such large numbers of displaced individuals. Loss of livelihood. Agriculture is the primary source of livelihood for a large portion of Bangladesh's population. The floods have inundated vast areas of farmland, destroying crops that were ready for harvest. This has resulted in a significant loss of income for farmers, who now face food insecurity and financial hardship. The fishing industry, another major source of livelihood, has also been devastated, as the floods have polluted water bodies and destroyed fishing equipment. Health risks. Floodwaters have contaminated drinking water sources, leading to a rise in waterborne diseases such as cholera, dysentery, and typhoid. Additionally, the stagnant water serves as a breeding ground for mosquitoes, resulting in an increase in cases of malaria and dengue fever. The healthcare system in flood-affected areas is struggling to cope with the influx of patients, as many health centres have been damaged or are inaccessible due to the flooding. Environmental impact. While the human toll of the floods is enormous, the environmental consequences are also significant. Erosion and loss of land. The force of the floodwaters has led to severe erosion along riverbanks, resulting in the loss of valuable agricultural land. This has long-term implications for food security, as it will take years for some of this land to be reclaimed and made suitable for farming again. Erosion also increases the risk of future flooding, as natural barriers that help protect against floods are washed away. Damage to ecosystems. The floods have caused extensive damage to Bangladesh's delicate ecosystems. Mangrove forests, which provide a crucial buffer against storms and floods in coastal areas, have been severely affected. Additionally, many wildlife habitats have been destroyed, leading to the displacement of animals and a loss of biodiversity. Water pollution. Floodwaters have mixed with industrial waste, sewage, and agricultural runoff, contaminating rivers and lakes. This pollution has far-reaching consequences for both human health and the environment. Aquatic life is particularly vulnerable, as many species of fish and other organisms are unable to survive in the polluted waters. Role of climate change. Bangladesh is one of the countries most vulnerable to climate change, and the 2024 floods have highlighted how climate change is exacerbating natural disasters in the region. Rising sea levels. As global temperatures rise, polar ice caps and glaciers are melting, causing sea levels to rise. Bangladesh, with its low-lying coastal areas, is particularly vulnerable to this phenomenon. Rising sea levels increase the frequency and severity of coastal flooding, putting millions of people at risk. In some cases, entire communities may be forced to relocate as their homes become uninhabitable due to rising waters. Extreme weather patterns. Climate change has also led to more extreme weather patterns in Bangladesh. The country has experienced an increase in both the intensity and frequency of storms, cyclones, and heavy rainfall. These extreme weather events compound the effects of the monsoon season, making floods more destructive than they were in the past. International responsibility. Although Bangladesh contributes only a small fraction to global greenhouse gas emissions, it bears a disproportionate burden of the consequences of climate change. Many experts argue that wealthy, industrialized nations, which are the primary contributors to climate change, have a moral responsibility to help countries like Bangladesh mitigate and adapt to these impacts. This includes providing financial assistance for climate adaptation projects, such as building flood-resistant infrastructure and improving early warning systems for natural disasters. Government and international response. The government of Bangladesh and international organisations have been working tirelessly to provide relief to those affected by the floods. Government response. The Bangladeshi government has deployed military personnel and rescue teams to evacuate people from flood-hit areas. They have also set up relief camps to provide food, clean water and medical care to displaced individuals. However, the scale of the disaster has overwhelmed the government's resources, and many people remain without adequate assistance. In response to the long-term threat of flooding, the government has been investing in infrastructure projects designed to mitigate the impact of future floods. This includes the construction of embankments, flood shelters, and drainage systems. However, these efforts have not been sufficient to protect against the extreme flooding seen in 2024. International aid. International aid organisations, such as the Red Cross, UNICEF, and various UN agencies have stepped in to provide additional support. They have been working alongside the Bangladeshi government to distribute emergency supplies and provide healthcare services to those in need. Several countries have also pledged financial assistance to help Bangladesh recover from the disaster. However, there is a growing recognition that humanitarian aid is not enough to address the root causes of the flooding. International organisations are increasingly advocating for climate adaptation projects, such as improving early warning systems and building resilient infrastructure, to help Bangladesh prepare for future climate-related disasters. The road ahead: adaptation and mitigation. The 2024 floods in Bangladesh have underscored the urgent need for both immediate relief efforts and long-term strategies to mitigate the impacts of climate change. While the country has made progress in building resilience to natural disasters, much more needs to be done to protect its people from the worsening effects of climate change. Improving infrastructure. One of the most critical areas of focus is improving infrastructure to withstand floods. This includes the construction of more flood-resistant homes, embankments and roads, as well as better drainage systems to prevent water from accumulating in urban areas. Additionally, the government must prioritise the maintenance and upgrading of existing flood defences, many of which are outdated and in poor condition. Investing in early warning systems, Bangladesh has made significant strides in developing early warning systems for natural disasters, such as cyclones and floods. However, the recent floods have exposed gaps in these systems, particularly in remote and rural areas. Investing in more accurate and reliable forecasting technology, as well as ensuring that early warnings reach all communities, is essential to saving lives and reducing the impact of future floods. Building climate resilience. In the long term, Bangladesh must focus on building climate resilience by adopting sustainable practices that reduce its vulnerability to climate change. This includes promoting climate-smart agriculture, such as planting flood-resistant crops, and restoring natural ecosystems, such as mangroves, which act as natural barriers against floods. The government must also work with international partners to secure funding for large-scale climate adaptation projects. Global action on climate change. Ultimately, addressing the root causes of the floods requires global action on climate change. Industrialized nations must take bold steps to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and fulfill their commitments under international agreements, such as the Paris Agreement. At the same time, They must provide financial and technical assistance to countries like Bangladesh, which are disproportionately affected by climate change, to help them adapt to its impacts. Conclusion. The 2024 Bangladesh floods have been a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of climate change on vulnerable countries. While the immediate priority is providing relief to the millions of people affected by the disaster, there is a pressing need for long-term strategies to mitigate the impact of future floods. By improving infrastructure, investing in early warning systems, and building climate resilience, Bangladesh can better prepare for the challenges that lie ahead. However, without decisive global action on climate change, the country will continue to face increasingly severe and frequent natural disasters, with catastrophic consequences for its people and environment. If you found this video insightful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with others who care about climate change and its global impact. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update on critical global issues like this one. Let's stay informed and inspire action together.